Good evening from Cologne, and it's congratulations England because they have finished top of their group. Okay, so it's a 0-0 draw with Slovenia, which we are about to review on the debrief. I'm Adrian Durham. Our talkSPORT commentator for England, Jim Proudfoot, is with us, and so too is the former England captain, a European Championship semi-finalist, a World Cup semi-finalist, Stuart Pearce. And Stu, we'll start with you. 0-0 is not a good result. What did you make of the performance?
I was buoyed up by the performance. I've got to say, I think it was the best performance we've put on in the group stages. I think the second half performance was very good. I think the substitutions were very good. Give us a lift and give Gareth something to think about going into the next games. And there were so many more bright points. I think we had more penetration on the left-hand side because of the way we lined up and got a numbers superiority in that area of the pitch. More positives than negatives. If we had won the game 2-0 and maybe had the rubber green in and around the box, we'd have been absolutely delighted, I think, and thought it was a wonderful performance.
Winning the group is great, but it wasn't under our control. We relied on the 0-0 draw in the other game to win the group, and I think that's where some fans might be looking at it saying, hang on a minute, we should be controlling this. We should be beating a side that in the world rankings, the FIFA rankings at least, are 57th in the world. Some describe them as a pub team. We should be beating Slovenia. Is it that simple, Jim?
No, I don't think it is that simple. I mean, yes, you're absolutely right. The other game went on for a couple of minutes after England's did, and had the Danes scored within that 2-minute period, England would have finished second in the group. They'd have ended up playing Germany rather than one of the teams that have finished third, who we expect to be the Dutch. Slovenia are not a pub team. 57th in the FIFA World Rankings, but in the ELO ratings, which always seem to be more accurate, they're just outside the top 30. They've beaten Portugal by 2-0 this year. They're more than capable. And, listen, trying to break down a 4-4-2 low block has been England's kryptonite for years and years and years, and that got proved again today, but I'm with Stuart. I thought there were a number of positives. It felt like a step in the right direction. Not a big step necessarily, but a step in the right direction. The second half was better than the first, and I think that there are positives that England and Gareth Southgate can take, a number of them, going into the game against whoever it may be this weekend.
Okay, I want to deal with a negative first, and Jim's mentioned it there, Stu. Against a low block, we saw before the tournament in friendlies, we struggled to break it down. We've seen it again in the game in Cologne against Slovenia, struggled to break the low block down. Now, it mightn't be that we don't play against a low block for the rest of the tournament, which will be a bonus, but Gareth has to find a way to make that happen. He has to find a different way to try and make that happen, surely.
Yeah, I think maybe taking a leaf out of the Spaniards' books in putting the ball in the box a little bit more readily. I think, we come out of the last game and we had nothing to offer on the left-hand side. I think they've looked at that and they've solved that issue by getting a numbers superiority around there, and we looked a lot better in that area, albeit we're still a right-footed left-back support in play. I think if we were a bit more free-flowing with putting balls into the box as well, get it out of feet, put it in the box. There's a couple of crosses that zipped across and out the other side, which were real problems to them. I think if we'd done that a little bit more readily, that would help in that effect.
I also think to score 2 goals in 3 group games is a stat that needs analysing. When you look at Bellingham, who's got loads of goals for Real Madrid this season, Kane, who's got 40 plus in Germany this season. You look at Bowen, who scored a number of goals, I think 19 Premier League. Cole Palmer, who was in the 20s for Premier League goals as well. You've got players there who are scoring goals. Ollie Watkins, there's goals there, sitting on the bench, some of those goals. And yet we've scored 2 in 3 games. So at club level, they're scoring goals. With England, they're not scoring goals. I know that's a very simplistic way of looking at it, but that's the reality, Jim.
Yes, that is the reality, but in terms of international goals, there aren't that many in the team if you take Harry Kane out of it. And the lack of productivity of Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden is something that we've been talking about for, a good 3 months or so, when you consider their international records, that coming into the tournament, Jude had scored 3 for his country, Phil Foden had scored 4, 2 of which were back in 2020. So this isn't a new thing, really. I think that against a side like the Dutch, who won't play in the same way, England will actually create more chances. I don't think that they will be struggling to break sides down in the same way. I think that those chances will come along, but there's no getting away from it. 2 goals in 3 games against sides who are all ranked substantially lower than England is not what was expected, and that is something that needs addressing. But I do think that England will make further progress in it.
Gareth Southgate has said this week there's a lot of external noise. He doesn't listen to it. There will be a lot of external noise after this performance as well. And I think trying to gauge the mood of the nation, the England supporting nation, Stuart, is sometimes quite easy. If they win, then people are more positive. If they don't win, they're always negative. And I think they'll be negative after this one. I think that I can understand that, but does it need some perspective, really? When you're looking at how a tournament works, there are 7 games that you play in this tournament. Win all 7, you win the Euros. You're not going to play 10 out of 10 in every single game, are you? So England have had 2 bad performances and a better performance tonight. They now need to start stepping it up.
Yeah, they'll be aware of that. They're acutely aware of that. I think Gareth in his press conference has alluded to the fact that they will get better. They've got to get better. They know that. There's tougher challenges out there ahead for all teams from group stages, there's no doubt. But I personally was buoyed up by what I saw today. I think the contribution from the bench is a massive plus. The way they solved this left side of the team issue, whether they can do that again in the next game or line a team up to do that. And listen, to stop a team having an effort on our goal in the second half at international level takes some doing, you know. Another clean sheet. We all went into this the Euros scared stiff of our back line and our defence. We've kept 2 clean sheets, you know. And Gahey's looking an outstanding player. Him and Stones have formed a really good partnership. So I think there's so many good positives there, especially in the back line, which we think that's our Achilles heel.
You've talked about Harry Kane last time, how you might possibly have left him out for this game. You've talked about Phil Foden in this tournament as well. What did you make of both those players tonight?
Well, I thought Phil played well enough to probably select him as the player of the match. I think Harry played a steady game today, without a doubt, you know. I still would have potentially, I said before, I would have probably made a change for this game, for Harry, just to have a look at someone else. Now, why would I do that? For the same reason that you put the likes of Palmer on the pitch and you put Gordon on the pitch and Mainu on the pitch, because you want to know a bit more for the next knockout game, you know. I think the team picks itself. I think Mainu comes in for Gallagher, and that's the starting lineup that we're going to see. There might be a question, and Jim mentioned earlier, potentially of Palmer coming in on the right-hand side for Saka. Saka's not let us down, it's fair to say.
Yeah, one of the big positives was the substitutions Gareth made. All were positive. They made a positive impact on the performance without us getting that winning goal. And that could lead to a change to the starting lineup in the next game.
Absolutely. When you look at England performances in the past, and you know, back in 1966 and 1986 and so on and so forth, the team has developed over the course of a tournament with changes, some of them becoming organic and it becoming obvious what's going to happen. I think Mainu's played his way into the starting lineup for the knockout stages as a result of that.
You're all wondering why I haven't mentioned Jude Bellingham yet, right? So let's do it. Let's get the verdict on Jude Bellingham's performance from these guys. Stuart Pearce, first of all, what did you make of him?
I think he started the game quite nervously. I'll go back to the first game in the group. When he scored, his confidence was absolutely oozing. He was running all over the midfield, looking to get on the ball. I didn't see that from him, but there was a little bit of nervousness. It's not an exact science, football. He's still a very young man. We've got to understand that. Personally, I would have probably drawn him off in the second half slightly earlier than I did, just to give him a little break. But I think he'll start the next game. But the one thing Gareth's got in his locker now, he knows he can put other players on the pitch, and there's competition for places. This is England, and this is about England getting over the line in a couple of weeks' time. Yeah,
and I think on Jude Bellingham, it's interesting seeing before, when they were inspecting the pitch, walking out on the pitch before the game, when they arrived at the stadium, he was on his own. That's happened before. But in the warm-up, he was ballooning balls over the bar and seemed to be in a different headspace. Come the game, he was charging forward, sometimes getting in Kane's way and trying to be more of the number 9 at times in that performance. But ultimately, Jim, I don't think he made enough happen. For somebody with his talent, and I appreciate he is still young, I'm looking for more from Jude Bellingham. Is that unfair?
No, it's not unfair, because he's the best player in Spain. So it's not unfair at all, but I think there is always perspectives. There's 2 sides to everything. He's still 20 years of age. He has had relatively few setbacks in his career, relatively few occasions where he probably hasn't felt on top form. And so it might be difficult for him to work out, particularly when it happens in significant games under pressure, how to be able to turn the corner. I think he will turn it, no problem at all, but he probably needs something to fall his way. I think the positive from the performance, and there weren't too many individual contributions from Jude that made you get to the edge of your seat. Those primarily all happened in the half hour that we saw against Serbia in the first game. That was Jude's highlights reel from the group stage. But I think the positive contribution, the way that he linked up with Phil Foden, was much better than anything we've seen before. The heat map for Jude was completely different for this game. Rather than being in a more central area, if you looked at Foden's heat map and Bellingham's heat map, it's not obvious which of the two actually was out on the left-hand side and which was playing at 10. We talked before about the fact that if you're playing against England, there's often a familiarity and there's no real... nothing really happens, no Roald Dahl tale of the unexpected being thrown in anywhere, but there was more of that tonight. There was more fluidity of movement. Now, again, still clearly a lot of room for improvement, but I thought that was a positive aspect of Jude's night. But I don't know, he just needs a couple of days. The pressure is off now. I think that the pressure is off. It becomes a different type of thing. But knockout football, you've not been a side that have finished third in a group of 4. You've won the group. That is there. It's a positive store. You can draw a line in the sand underneath 4.5 mediocre halves of football that we've seen from England so far, and it all comes down to what happens this weekend. And then if they get through that, the quarter-final against against the Swiss or the Italians in Dusseldorf after that. And I think that will bring the best out of Jude. I don't think you can look at what we've seen from him so far and think he's not going to be able to be a success at this tournament. But I also think, going back to a point that Stu made in the week leading up to the tournament, if England are going to do really well, they probably need Bellingham or Foden to be just about the star performer of the tournament. So far, they aren't.
Ideally both, to be honest with you. Final word to you, Stuart Pearce, because I think the reaction back home will be negative. I think it'll be overwhelmingly negative, judging by some of the messages I've read, not just on social media. England fans who are in the stadium tonight who've messaged me not very happy with what they've seen, not just in this performance. They didn't enjoy this performance and didn't see the positives as much as you've done. But the group stage itself, the positive is they've topped the group, but they don't score enough goals. They can't see this England side under Gareth Southgate winning the European Championships. What would your message be to those fans?
Well, for me, the team have got better and better as the tournament's gone on. I think our best half of football is what we've just seen. The last half. I think there's certain individuals from the bench, so we've got more than just an 11, if you like, that can perform. I think Gareth tonight has convinced himself that there are substitutes that can impact. The likes of Palmer, Gordon, Mainu are there and ready for you. Watkins come on the other night and give us a lift as well, by the way. We're keeping clean sheets. The big question mark going into this tournament, defensively, scared the life out of me. We might get Luke Shaw back fit. We might. If we do, we're going to look a hell of a lot better side in a defence that's done very well. He gives you another attacking option as well as a defensive option. Do you want any more?
Go on.
I've run out, I think.
I think what we should do is go and have a big party because England have won the group. Who cares how they perform? They've won the group, and from now on they're going to be 10 out of 10 every game, and they're going to win the Euros. We'll see you in Gelsenkirchen next time.